some new changes in the law, the system itself. So the new flag actually symbolizes the new beginning of South Africa. If people are actually still using the last flag, it means that they are not willing to change, and it actually means that they have not accepted the terms of democracy itself.
I'm okay with it because at the end of the day, it's everybody's choice, you know. We're entitled to our own opinions and choices, so I'm not against it.
There is a new flag, meaning if there are some people who are still using the flag that was used in the apartheid, they don't want to move forward with us.
They keep saying we're born free, but like, we're not really born free if people are still going to keep using their old flag and we're not using the new flag.
Always there's a choice, whoever wants to, whatever he enjoys, what he want to have. Political-wise, whatever, it's his choice.
All right, and those are some of the views from many South Africans on the use of the old flag and the current South African flag. As you know, many South Africans have ensued in a heated debate over the hashtag Black Monday protest that took place last week, where some farmers displayed the old South African flag, an image for the majority that represents what many view as oppression as well as violent apartheid era. Others, however, feel that it is their constitutional right to own and display the flag, and that it also depicts the good old days, according to them. But the question that we're asking this morning is, should the old South African flag be banned? Joining us from our Pretoria studio is Kali Kriel. He's the CEO of AfriForum, but with me here in studio is Sello Hatang, the Chief Executive Officer of the Nelson Mandela Foundation. Kali, thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. It's a pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you so much indeed. Ndate Hatang, good morning to you, and thank you so much indeed for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Let's start with the Nelson Mandela Foundation. You saying that we need to have a conversation about this issue. Do we really need to talk about it? Is it something that really has to be discussed?
You know, one of the things that we struggle with is how even those who disavow the flag, who say we distance ourselves from the public display of the flag, and all those things, then say, no, but people can have it. People can own it. And it's those people that we want to understand why. Because in our view, this flag represents the worst of South Africa. It represents that very thing that we do not want to remember. The very thing that we said we disavow as a nation. We want to distance ourselves from. So we believe that it is about time that we then say maybe it should be banned.
All right. Let's hear AfriForum's view on this issue, Mr. Kriel. What do you think should happen? Because AfriForum has distanced itself from what happened during hashtag Black Monday, that you don't know anything about the showing of the old South African flag, but yet you're saying that it is one's constitutional right to own one. That sounds very contradictory to me.
No, it's not contradictory at all. Maybe I should just say that it's ironic that we're having this discussion flowing from fake news. The fact is, those pictures that were sent around on social media were taken on a different location at a different time, and it was abused by people trying to detract what the real message of Black Monday was. But even though this debate flows from fake news, I still think it's an important debate. The fact is, we ask our supporters not to show the former South African flag or any other symbols at our meetings, simply because it detracts from the main message, which on Black Monday was the issue of farm murders. But secondly, you don't have meetings to offend anybody else. And I believe it should not be unlawful, but it's unwise to do so. And if we allow the banning of the flag, even people that dislike the previous flag extremely, they must remember they're opening the door for government now to start banning things that they dislike, that they might like. So it is a dangerous route to go. And I think society say, well, it's inappropriate to show it, but we're not going to take away people's rights. And if we're going to start banning, you know, under the communist regimes across the world, 100 million people died. Should we ban communist symbols? I say no. It's part of history, and you cannot ban history.
But then apartheid symbolizes something very different in that decree. It symbolizes an era where people lived not so well in South Africa, which is a crime against humanity. So are you saying that you're not offending people who suffered under the previous apartheid regime?
No, of course people are offended by it, but that's why we say it's inappropriate to use it in a public platform where you can offend people, but it's a different reason to ban it. Let me just state, it's quite ironic that I grew up in a family that also disliked the flag, but for other reasons, because it was a symbol of a union that was established when British colonialism defeated the Boer republics, and the Union Jack was included in the flag. So even though from my background there was a dislike, I recognize that there are people, and many of these people don't long to get apartheid back, but say they served under this flag, they were born under this flag, and I see it as part of their history. But what we do say is people should not, on an occasion that is organized for something else, use a symbol that divides people. We need to unite people amongst regarding the various issues in the country. But we cannot start banning. As I've said, you spoke about the crime against humanity. Well, for me, communism was also a crime against humanity in the sense that 100 million people died. But are we now going to ban the SACP from using that symbol? I say no, it's their right. But of course, our view is something should not be unlawful, but we need to say when it is inappropriate.
Yeah, but how do you preach unity, whereas there are people who are concerned about the usage of this old flag? But let me just bring Dade Hatang into this conversation. Just before you comment, the banning of the old flag, will this not infringe on other people's constitutional right, as the decree is saying?
Let me start off by saying we should differentiate between Kali Krill's personal opinion about communism and what the United Nations declared as a crime against humanity. Yeah. So here it's not just a personal opinion that it was a crime. Here it was declared by the United Nations as a crime against humanity. The fact that I think IJR conducted a survey recently, and that survey found that over 50% of white South Africans have forgotten that apartheid was a crime against humanity. It is that kind of thing that we should be fighting against, that forgetting. And it's that forgetting again that makes it possible for people to then say, I know I might offend, but I will then exercise my right to then bring that offense. And to then say that people should not publicly display the flag, you privatizing, you then taking racism and racist behaviors and attitudes into a private space, which should also not be allowed. Because we always wonder, how come that young people, young white Afrikaners would harbor such racist tendencies? It's what they find at home. The display of these flags at home that are then found to be acceptable at home. So what you do privately in your home should then be something that you can publicly also do proudly. And I'm saying to Kali, I'm pleading with Kali to say, let's make sure that those things that we find offensive publicly, we should also find offensive privately. Because it means that around the braai, we can be offensive. Yeah. Because we all agree, we can then be offensive. Why should we be offensive privately? Be offensive even publicly then, if you are so proud when you are around dinner tables.
Maybe the question really back to Mr. Krill is, do you not care personally, or perhaps as AfriForum, about how some people feel when certain people undermine the national symbols, be it the old national flag and the current one, be it the South African national anthem? Because there were also reports that during the march, the stem was also sang.
Well, as I've stated quite clearly, we believe it's inappropriate at such a march to do something that would offend someone else. I just want to answer with regard to what Selo said. He said the feeling about communism is my personal view. Well, it's not my personal view that 100 million was killed under that ideology. It's an historical fact. And what we should also make sure is that we don't have double standards. You know, just shortly after the Black Monday protests, the EFF held a protest here in Pretoria, and one of the flags that was displayed there was of an extremist group, Hezbollah, that was displayed, but nobody said anything about that. So if we want to have a discussion, we should not focus on a small group and just focus on that. We should have a broader discussion with regard to inappropriate behavior that creates polarization, because we need a society where there's mutual recognition and respect amongst all communities in this country.
But what kind of discussion?
That is why we are saying...
Let me just come in there. What kind of discussions do you think South Africans should have if you say that it is in their own right to own the old flag? Do you think there is really a need for such a discussion? Because it looks like AfriForum has actually concluded to say, no, it's fine, they can own it.
Well, I don't think one should generalize with regard to that, but what I do say is you cannot legislate people's views. What you can do is to educate and say, well, we should make sure that when we have a protest or any action on a certain issue, let's focus on that issue and unite people around that issue and not be divisive. That is a very important discussion that we are taking on. But unfortunately, you have people sending around photographs of the current flag being burnt, even though that incident happened in 2012 in Delmas. And they sent photographs. The one photograph in your intro that I saw was a photograph that was taken in London in 2013, not even in the country. So you are getting people that want to abuse the flag issue to try and discredit a legitimate cause. And that is what we are saying. We are urging people not to use symbols that would detract from the cause that we are busy with, not to do anything that would be to the detriment or hurt the feelings of anybody else. And it's not only the old flag that are hurting people's feelings. The president hurt people's feelings when he said all the problems in the country started when Jan van Riebeeck came. Julius Malema, through his statements, hurt people. So we should take all this as a package and not be selective and
all right, sorry for that one. Let's just conclude the discussion here, Mr. Kroll. Do you not think that AfriForum and the entire farming community lost an opportunity to actually unite South Africa? Because the actual fact is that murder does not just affect farmers in South Africa, but it's a societal problem that needs to be tackled as such. Do you not think that you missed an opportunity to unify South Africa instead of seeing this division that was created by Black Monday?
Well, there was no division created. As I've said, the news stories that were spread were fake news. It was not taken on the day. And we came out strongly to say that we need to unite people. If there was a fair picture of what happened on Black Monday, it was a united people. People from many races took part. And the old flag was not an issue. It was made an issue through fake news. And we also need to fight that and not just fall for people that want to detract from the message by spreading fake news.
Okay, thank you so much, Selorata. Your final words?
You know, I think, Kali, until the day we all think that murder is a problem, that the fact that young black South Africans die on a daily basis in their huge numbers, that Black Monday should have been about murder.
So you actually think they missed an opportunity to
highlight the problem of murder, that kind of crime shouldn't then be racialized, that you then make it a sectoral kind of issue within society. We missed an opportunity to then say, we recognize and acknowledge that the most vulnerable to murder are people who are poor in a township, especially in townships. And if we were to then say every murder, every life lost is important, not to then say, display arrogance of saying you are with nothing without us, you won't get food without us. That displays some kind of arrogance. that then people, even those who were supportive, started thinking, what's this? This does not represent me at all. And it doesn't represent my vulnerability as a black young person, that I can be murdered. And the statistics suggest as such. And I think until such time that we do so, that we then don't just make our problem sectoral, that it's just one group. To say there's a white genocide, for example, that we know that's not true, and we shouldn't be allowing such stories to then be pushed forward. And we need to then be recognizing that there's nothing like that, and that the majority of people who are dying are young
All right.
black
I'm afraid
South
due to
Africans.
time constraints, we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much. And I do know that there were also reports that the photos that were posted on social media are fake news, old photos, as you said, but there are still video clips of people who were singing the stem on the very same day. But I'm afraid due to time constraints, we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much to our guest, Ekali Kriel, CEO of AfriForum, as well as the CEO at the Nelson Mandela Foundation, Ntate Sello Hatang. At Morning Live SABC is our Twitter handle. Let's hear your views on this matter.